Hello, I'm Ngamisile Pamela Ngubane, and this is the Entity Dynamics podcast. Entity Dynamics is a culture development consultancy where we believe that culture creates behavior and behavior creates reality. So I just wanted to do a short video about peer pressure. I was thinking about this and how much, young people get told not to succumb to peer pressure and the dangers inherent in succumbing to peer pressure because then they might find themselves pressured to engage in risky behavior that is destructive to themselves. Okay. And fair enough. I totally agree. However, just like many things in our society that we want to deal with and that we see as a problem, we tend to focus on symptoms instead of causes. Now, in the sense of peer pressure, we're talking about young people who are members of a society doing things which that society sees as negative. However, in that same society, you have grown-ups themselves succumbing to peer pressure on a daily basis. You have grown-ups who have also grown up succumbing to the pressure of their parents and the social institutions in the society in which they grow up. For example, you'll have people being pressured into certain careers because they're seen as prestigious. And that prestige is sought not for the benefit of the person who's going to be engaging in that prestigious career, but for the prestige of the family and the society, right? That's pressure. It may not be peer pressure because those people are obviously going to be older than them or part of some superior hierarchical structure that the person is sort of beholden to. Right? But they're under pressure to behave in a way which is contrary to what is in their best interest. Then you have people being pressured by their religious organization that they belong to, for example, stay in an abusive marriage, whether a man or a woman, being pressured that you're going to stay in this abusive marriage because it'll look bad for our society if you get divorced. It will undermine the integrity of our religious institution that officiated your marriage if you guys get divorced. And then they'll even go things like, it will be bad for the children for you to get divorced. I can guarantee you that children would rather live with two parents separately who are at peace with themselves than in a home with two parents who are together fighting all the time. Okay. Then there is also the pressure that's put on people by their parents, by their families to get married and have children. Some people don't want to get married and have children. Some people don't want to get married. Some people don't want to have children. Some people want to get married and have no children. Some people want to have children without getting married. You know what I'm saying? There is all this pressure that is put on people to behave in ways which don't resonate with who they are inside as a human being. Huge pressure that makes people feel that they would rather undermine their own personality, their own soul, their own feeling of who they are inside and what they're here on this planet to do than go against the society, the family, the institution that they belong to. Imagine that kind of pressure. I mean, your soul knows what it wants to do on this planet, what it was brought here to do. But you're willing to undermine that in order to please other people. That means that the pressure that is coming from those other people, those other institutions, those systems is immense. So my thing is this, if we want to be on the case of young people not to succumb to peer pressure, rightly so, let's also as grown-ups, let's also as members of institutions not succumb to peer pressure or hierarchical pressure or institutional pressure or family pressure or social pressure. Let's also, as individuals, be responsible enough to set an example to young people and say, guys, I can tell you right now that I am preferring to be an outcast to that system than to undermine my soul in order to fit in with it. That's how we fight peer pressure, by being good examples to young people, to show them that you as an individual are so valuable that no institution, no friend group, no cultural organization, etc., has the right to determine the course of your life. unless you've gone to ask for advice and you agree with the advice you've gotten from those institutions or people or groups, your decisions for yourself, as long as they are taken with the understanding that their consequences are for your highest good, those decisions are sacred, and we will protect them and we will support you in following that path, as unpopular as it may be to anyone else. You know, that's how we get to the root cause of what is peer pressure. Sort of dealing with symptoms and then pretending that our society is so functional and so supportive of humanity. It's not. We all know that. Otherwise, there wouldn't be drug addiction amongst young people, for example. People act like, oh, young people are into drugs because they're rebellious and they've succumbed to peer pressure. No. Young people are into drugs because drugs make them feel special inside to themselves and make them feel like they are connected to something expansive that is beyond themselves. And why do they need to feel that? Because they're not being validated as the spiritual beings that they are at home, at school, in the institutions that make up their society. They're not being validated. They're being told, conform, be like what we think you should be. No one's taking the time to say to a young person, hey, what are you about? Who are you? What do you want to be in your life? What do you see as your reason for coming to this planet? No one. Who asks that? Who asks young people those questions? Who? No one, right? And so when that young person decides to take matters into their own hands to make themselves feel good about life and to make themselves feel like they are special or worthy of attention and validation, by making themselves feel good, temporarily destructive, completely. I'm not going to pretend that drug addiction and drug use is something worth defending or celebrating. Okay, but the truth is, young people need to feel seen, they need to feel validated, and they need to feel like they belong. Then you can be guaranteed that they're not going to seek those same needs to be filled by their peer group or any other external group. They will feel it in themselves. And by feeling it at home and in the cultural institutions that claim to have their interests at heart, and the social institutions that claim to have their interests at heart, then they will be able to create tools within themselves to self-validate, to self-affirm. Then they won't need to seek it elsewhere. But as long as we have a society that is obsessed with making people behave in ways that create the semblance of some sort of social order or some sort of social normalcy, while inside a person is not feeling validated and seen and affirmed, then let's just leave the young people alone, because we ourselves are the very reason why those young people are seeking validation from external sources like their peer group. And in fact, leave them to seek it from their peer group, because at least there, they are with people who see them for who they are and who accept them unconditionally for who they are. Unlike their families, their churches, mosque, temple, synagogue, unlike their school, unlike all these other institutions run by grown-ups who treat them like they're just a number on a exam report card, or like a salary, or like a producer of grandchildren. Let's rather leave the young people. At least there they feel like they belong to someone who actually cares about them. And just to end off, this also goes in line with what I'm talking about creating a culture of economic consciousness. People are the bedrock of any economic activity. And if we're not going to take the time to care about people and make them feel like they are valuable, which they are inherently because they're created by their creator. But if we as a society are not going to make people feel valuable, then how do we expect to have functional economic systems that actually affirm the life that we as human beings are living, and to create a better life that we all talk about wanting to create? So thank you, and please like, share, comment, subscribe, and please ask me questions if you're interested in other topics that you want me to talk about. Thank you.